Hello, friends and fellow lovers of all things beachy. Welcome to The Beach Speaks, the podcast that shares stories about the beach and our connection to it. I'm your host and beach lover, Paige Friend, helping you reconnect with the beach, return to your soul, and reimagine your life. So grab a cool drink, relax in your beach chair, stick your toes in the sand, and enjoy this episode of The Beach Speaks. Hey, beach lover. Is Australia on your beach bucket list? Well, if it is, you're going to really like today's conversation with travel podcasters Lyle and Leanne, who just so happen to live on the beach in Australia. Their podcast is called Beach Travel Wine, and I first heard about it when Leanne sent me a message through my website. She told me that they sold a business and retired to travel, especially the beaches all over the world, and of course in Australia. They downsized and bought a unit on the beach where they can see the ocean from every room, and they get to sleep to the sound of the waves. They are indeed very lucky. Apparently, 90% of Australians live within 5 kilometers of the beach, so you can see how it's an important part of everyone's life. They do love going to the beach to swim and enjoy the water, but one of their favorite things to do is to wake up in the morning for a walk along the beach. Everything seems better after a walk on the beach, right? The beach is also about connecting with family. Having 8 grandchildren, it's the perfect place to come together. And at the time we recorded this episode, Lyle and Leanne had just returned from a 14-day tour of Mexico that ended in Cancun, and I was just about to travel there, so I was really interested to hear about it. Something else that I really wanted to hear about was their experience scuba diving and snorkeling on the Great Barrier Reef and going on a reef sleep, where you sleep out on the deck of a pontoon boat miles from shore on the reef. It's just you, a few friends, and the ocean as the sun sets and the stars come out. What a remarkable experience. And what a fabulous way to connect with nature. We talked about the best beaches in Australia, their travels to Spain, where they're traveling to next, and Lyle describes one of the beaches that many travelers dream of going to, but he thought it was, well, kind of underrated. Well, one thing that is not underrated is their love for the beach. Here's Lyle and Leanne from their home in Australia to tell us all about it. Hey, Lyle and Leanne, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hey, Paige.
How are you?
We're great, thanks.
Where are you today? I know you travel a lot.
Yeah, we're in Queensland, Australia. We're at home and the Sunshine Coast, looking at the beach.
I love it. I love it. Have you always lived in that area?
No, I originally lived in Melbourne, Victoria, which is down south.
And I'm from country, New South Wales, which is, south as well. So, yeah, we've moved to the beach a bit later in our life.
Yeah, that's kind of my story too. Well, I didn't live at the beach at all until I moved here, but I always wanted to live at the beach. And this was kind of a later in life move for me as well. I woke up one morning and said, no, this is not the life I want. I want to meet my soulmate. I want to quit my 9 to 5 and move to the beach. And that's what I did.
So where are you now?
I am in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, which is on the Atlantic coast, the northern part of the state. It's a little different kind of beach than what you would find down in the Miami area or on the Gulf Coast. But I love it. It's the beach for me. It's home. So I'm going to start off like I do with all my guests and ask you, how is the beach speaking to you today?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question, isn't it? I think the beach speaks to me, and I think Lyle every day. Just when we wake up and it just calls us outside to get out and get into the fresh air and look at the ocean and go for a walk and just start our day that way. That's my sort of daily ritual anyway, and how it speaks to me.
Yeah, I think it, like especially currently with the weather that we've got, it actually calls you to go down and have a swim.
Yes.
It's that nice. The water temperature at the moment is probably about 24, 25 degrees centigrade, so it's
Celsius, yeah.
pretty warm. So yeah, that's the
Yes.
beauty of it, and we've just got to walk across the road, and we're there.
It says, come walk on me, come swim. It's the beach speaking.
Yes, exactly. Lyle, it's funny that you mentioned swimming because I was reading on your website that you enjoy swimming and that you swim every morning. Are you still doing that?
Not every morning. I did hurt my shoulder, and I'm sort of in a bit of rehab at the moment, but I do love it. I actually swam yesterday, and I said to Liam when I got back, I said it's the best I've felt for ages. So, yeah, probably every second morning.
Yeah. Well, I grew up swimming. I was a competitive swimmer from fourth grade through college. And I did a few triathlons where I swam in the ocean, open water. But I have yet to do some serious swimming in the ocean here. We have a group that does it. And I'm usually taking pictures of the sunrise while they're swimming on by.
Yeah, well, I did pretty much similar.
did.
I did the swim end of the triathlons up at Noosa Beach, which is a beautiful beach here, and there's another beach, pretty famous one in Queensland, the Mooloolaba Beach. So the K&a-half that you've got to do for the tri. I wasn't very good, but I was a competitive swimmer like you too, basically from around the age of about 10 through to about, 16. But I loved it. I still love it now.
We have a group here that goes swimming every morning too, and a group of old guys and some women as well. And they're called the Stunned Mullets. And then they all have coffee together. It's fabulous. It's such a nice lifestyle.
Oh, that's funny. And then you were talking about walking. Yeah, walking is probably one of my favorite things, and walking on the beach is
The ultimate, really, isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think too you need to do it because if you're going to, well, for us, we're at an age now where we've got to really try and keep ourselves pretty fit. So yeah, we walk every morning, and as I said, swim every second day, and exercise as much as we can to make it
Travel's healthy.
Yeah, to be able to travel.
Absolutely. So you quit your corporate jobs or whatever it was that you had to live this life and travel. Tell me a little bit about how that all came about.
Well, we had a business, a hospitality business, an accommodation business in a tourist area, which is about 30 minutes from here. We bought the apartment before we sold the business, and we basically made a decision of, like, it was all the stars came together basically. There was an alignment. It was time for us to sell it. We did very well out of the business, but we decided, for me it was a matter of I could either keep working or I could spend more time with Leanne. And it was a pretty easy decision, really. And as I said, the business, we were fortunate. We took us about 5 years to sell the business from the time we decided to sell it. And within that, we budgeted for a trip overseas every year. So that was all part of the calculation.
And also, I said to you, the most important thing about buying an apartment, I didn't care if it was, modern and big. It was just, it had to be, I could walk out my door and walk to the beach, so didn't have to even see the beach, but, like just being able to get to the beach by walking was the number one priority of finding somewhere for us to live. But, I mean, Australia is an island, right? Like it's it's the largest island. So, and we've got 34,000 kilometres, or I think it's like 21,000 miles of coastline. So 90% of Australians live within 5 kilometres of the beach. So, there's a lot of housing choices and options on the beach for us. Yeah, so.
Yeah, when you had mentioned that before, it just never occurred to me that the country was an island, essentially, and that you would have beaches practically all around.
Yeah. Well, they say over 10,000 beaches, so yeah, I don't know who's counted them. That was a good job, wasn't it?
It's very much a beach lifestyle here in Australia. It really is. And part of that, I think, talking about swimming, Australians and obviously the US are known for swimmers. I mean, we compete against each other every Olympics, and it's always, and I think part of that is the beach culture. And also surfing's a big.
And families grow up at the beach, and they have their holidays every year at the beach. My family comes every Christmas. I mean, other times as well, but they all come at the same time, and it's just beach, 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 beach. That's what we do, because our Christmas is summer holidays, and the kids have 6 to 8 weeks off school, and everyone's heading to the beach for holidays.
And the kids come up here.
In their school holidays.
And spend time with us and go to the beach every morning and every afternoon.
So it's just kind of baked into your everyday life and into your DNA almost. It's just something you do.
Yeah.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah. So you sell the business, you have this apartment, and you're ready to travel. Why travel and write a blog about it? Why travel and do a podcast?
Yeah, I guess because we love travel, and one of the things I always wanted to do was go to Spain, and I just said to Lyle, like, I had the website for a while and was writing some travel things, and podcasting just really spoke to me, I guess, and I listened to a lot of podcasts, and Lyle listens to a lot of podcasts. It's like it's how we like to consume. And, we look for travel podcasts, especially about places we want to go, and, didn't find a lot that fitted what we wanted. And, and the other thing is we like to sit around, and people love to hear our travel stories. And I just thought we're good at it, and we might enjoy it. So why not have a go? And we fell in love with it, to be honest. And we haven't stopped since, it started. We were sitting on our apartment floor in Paris one day, and I said, it's either now or never. And so that was the first week of our holiday in Paris, and we just did it, didn't we?
Yeah, and since then, I think what we've realised is actually doing the podcast, because we do research and we look at it probably more clearly than others that don't do the podcast, and it's actually really enhanced our holidays. Yeah, I love history, so when we went to Spain, because of all the history there, to be honest, it was just a natural fit. And Leanne had been learning to speak Spanish for, on and off for many, many years. And so obviously the more we go, the better she gets at that. And I was a little bit jealous, so I've probably been, learning it now for about 2 years. And
catching up very quickly.
Yeah, I can read it. But it's when they talk back to me, I can't.
But do you remember? Do you remember what you said to me when we went on our first long holiday to Spain? I think we were there for second holiday was 8 weeks, and I've done this. I did the itinerary, and Lyle said the criteria he had on where we went. Do you remember what it was? You wanted to be at the beach.
Yeah. Well, why
Before we
you?
even started the podcast, it was on our first trip, we were at the beach. Yeah.
So tell me more about Spain and the beaches, because I never really thought about putting the two and two together.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Someone said that to us when we were interviewed on another podcast, and they said, like you did, we didn't realise Australia was really an island. Like, of course it is, but you don't think of it like that. And Spain, is surrounded sort of on two sides mostly, and up the top by beaches.
Well, you've got the Mediterranean down south, and then as you go up the top, you've got the Atlantic.
You've got the Costa del Sol. It's all broken up into little areas. So even Barcelona is on the beach, and there's the islands. You've got Mallorca and Ibiza and Menorca on one side in the Mediterranean, and then on the other side, off Portugal, you've got the Canary Islands. So there's lots of beaches. One of our favourites, though, is right down the bottom. We spent 3 weeks there last year, a little place called Nerja, which is down just in Andalusia near Malaga. Oh, what a place that was,
Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely amazing.
It's like the perfect holiday spot. It's got the Spanish culture with the tapas and the restaurants and, the cobblestone streets. And then it's got, like the walks along the beach, which we do every day. And it's got the Balcón de Europa, which is sort of a meeting place of the locals. And you can watch the sunrise or the sunset there. And, it's got the beaches with the beach chairs and the umbrellas. And look, it's just magical. You can see for miles and miles and miles out to on the Mediterranean, can't you?
Yeah, and then up the top you've got San Sebastian.
Oh yeah, that was your favourite, wasn't it?
Santander. You've got, which is all on the Atlantic, and so really, Spain I suppose it'd be 80% of it is actually surrounded by water.
The only parts it isn't is the border with France and the border with Portugal.
Yeah. Well,
but when you can combine beach with food, and wine, like in Spain, that's the perfect combo, right?
Exactly, right up your alley there, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
When you travel, you must travel for a certain length of time. Like, you don't just go for a weekend. It seems to me like you do your research, you figure out the places you want to go and plan it out pretty thoroughly, and then you go for a while, right?
Not so much in Australia, it's a bit easier here, but when you go from Australia to Europe, you're travelling for minimum 24 hours. And so it's really hard to do something for, a week or two. It's just the jet lag and also, just the logistics of that. So, and because Australians get 4 weeks annual leave a year, so a lot of people save that up and travel for a good length of time. But, as we said, we're retired, and I guess it's good because we're in the southern hemisphere, so when our winter starts to come, which is really not a problem here, we can pack up and go to the other side of the world and have summer there. So we've got continuous summer, and then we come home to spring here and the 6 months of beautiful beach weather at home.
What has been your most memorable beach visit up to now? I don't know. You'll have that may be an unfair question because you've been to so many.
Yeah, I'm going to say, and you probably agree, would be when it's not necessarily a beach, but it is on the ocean, so it counts, I think, is the time we actually slept out on a pontoon on the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah, there's nothing beats that.
Yeah, that was really impressive. So off Airlie Beach in Queensland, which most people have heard of, the Whitsunday Islands, you can get a big catamaran boat out. It's 70 kilometres or nautical miles off the coast, and there's a great big pontoon which has, like all the facilities for snorkeling, and I did my first ever scuba dive there, which was like what they call an introductory dive.
Yeah.
And so you go, down under the water and you're swimming with the great big wrasse fish, and the coral is something like you've never seen before. And you can snorkel, though, and see just as much because the colours are up near the top, aren't they?
Yeah.
But then they have these beautiful little glamping tents, and also there's a couple of rooms underneath, actually under the water. And so the 150 other people hop on the big boat and head back into land, and then you're on the pontoon as for the afternoon as the sun's going down, and with about I think 15 maybe max people. Yeah,
maximum I think it was 16, and so you say goodbye to the boat, and you're there with 16 people having a glass of wine, watching the sunset
with your private chef.
With the private chef, and I think it's like a 5-course dinner, and look, we've done it twice.
Yeah.
And if we got the opportunity again, I definitely put my hand up. Yeah. Look, I think it's about 900 Australian dollars. Was it?
Yeah, I think so. But that's for the two of us.
So that was for the two of us. And when you really break it down, because the trip out to the reef on the catamaran's $250. Then you put the accommodation on it, and then you put the food on it. It's actually a pretty good deal.
And it's the memories that matter.
Oh, yeah. And we've met some very, very funny people out there.
And also the thing that's really nice about the quiet time is in the morning you can hop in and snorkel, along the reef and, without anyone else, so
Yeah.
Yeah. And we also, which was really memorable, we did a little 15-minute helicopter ride.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
There's like a helipad, and there's nothing like seeing the Great Barrier Reef from above. And there's a famous reef out there which is the shape of a heart,
yes,
called Heart Reef. And yeah, so that's certainly one of my most memorable times, being on the water is being under the water with scuba diving, and being above the water in the helicopter, and then just being on the pontoon as the sun set and the million stars come out in the sky. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, you've been very, very lucky.
That sounds amazing. Leanne, tell me about your first time scuba diving there.
I didn't realise that you could actually scuba dive without any qualifications, and Lyle assured me that you could. And so when you're on the big catamaran on the way out, they come around the staff and ask, are you going to scuba dive, or you want to snorkel, and so they tell you what's involved in doing an introductory dive. And if you're going to do it, this is the place to do it. Not necessarily, not just because it's the Great Barrier Reef, but because of the facilities there. And I just found it wonderful. So what they do is you don't even have to think about your equipment. They give it all to you, and you walk down a couple of metal stairs, and you're in the water, and there's a bar to hang on to. And, they give you your mouthpiece, and you just squat down or sit down, and you can practice your breathing. And, they give you like a bit of a 10-minute, instruction on, the hand signals and all that sort of stuff. And when you feel comfortable, they grab you by the hand and off you go, and you swim down under the pontoon and out into the reef. Like, it's right there within 50 metres, and you forget that you're doing anything except taking in the scenery. The breathing part, the anxiety part just goes out the window. It all just feels natural, and it's so calming and so gentle, and just so amazing that I didn't want it to stop. And the 30 minutes went by so quickly, and I came out of come back under the pontoon and up onto the little deck, and they take your tanks off, which are quite heavy. And I was buzzing. I just wanted to do it again and again and again. I just couldn't come down from cloud nine.
She was. Leanne was very, very euphoric, basically. So put that together with the helicopter ride and the and all that. But since then, Leanne has done it a lot more, and so that was led to Leanne getting certified as a scuba diver.
Yeah.
We then went to
Port Douglas,
which is another beach place
up near Cairns.
Up near Cairns, which is beautiful, and we we both got certified. I was previously certified,
but you did it with me.
But I did it with Leanne because
good refresher, hey.
Well, part of the course was there's 3 dives on the Great Barrier Reef, so if I hadn't have done the course, I couldn't do those those dives with her. So I thought, well, I just did the course. It was hard work. It's not easy to do, and because of the safety issues, obviously the instructors take it very, very seriously, which which is perfect. But so we've dived on the Great Barrier Reef a fair bit.
It is impressed upon you, the safety factor, obviously, and I imagine also for you all the preservation of the ecology there, because that reef has been so decimated by the environmental conditions in the world, and I'm sure that they were really careful to make sure that you didn't disturb anything. And
the places we went to, the reef was in really good condition. The reef gets damage from cyclones as well, and it looks bad, so it's not all from bleaching, but it's quite a natural process in the coral reef process, isn't it?
But the bleaching's natural too.
Yeah, but
it's caused by the sun. So,
but there's a lot where we went. If you saw any white patches, that it was recovering well from a couple of cyclones that they'd had.
I think you've got to realise too that the Great Barrier Reef is about 348,000 square kilometres.
Yeah, it's massive.
You can actually see it from space.
Yes.
So the chances of parts of that actually not being damaged would be rare. So there is a little bit of damage. It's probably on average about 5%. But the times that we've been recently, it's actually recovering.
Yeah, they said it's the best it's been.
It's the best it's been. And there was one particular dive we did which they hadn't the group that we went with hadn't actually been, because it had been damaged. And the week before we actually went out, they tried it and they went down, and it is the best reef I've ever seen.
It's called the Garden.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It was unbelievably beautiful.
But you're right, they do tell you not to tread on it and be, don't touch it and all that sort of stuff too.
Well, it's their livelihood, so they've got it.
But you can scuba dive. We didn't. In Cancun, there's they tell us it's the second biggest coral reef in the world is in Mexico.
Cancun, yeah.
Well, that's a good segue, because I did want to talk about Mexico and Cancun, especially because we're going in a couple of weeks, I think maybe 4 days, with a group of people. It's a conscious business community that I belong to called ShiftCo. We started meeting in the spring of 2020 during the pandemic. So we've only met each other on Zoom up until now. So somebody had the idea, let's all meet in Cancun and have a kind of a symposium / fun time. And so I'm super excited about that. I know that you did a series of episodes about your trip to Mexico. Let's talk about Cancun. What was your impression of it? What did you do?
Well, to be fair, to give you a quick idea, we'd done 15 days touring from Mexico City or all over Mexico and ended in Cancun. So once we got to Cancun, and the tour was amazing, but it was very busy. So Cancun was free time for us. So we were so ready to just hit the beach and enjoy some downtime. So I didn't leave really the hotel area very much. Lyle ventured out one day, but we were there only 3 nights as well. So, but yeah, at first impressions, it's beautiful. The sand's, as white and fine, and the water's as blue as
and warm. The water's
warm. The water's so warm, and once again, it's got the chairs and the umbrellas, and you can have cocktails on the beach. I mean, it is exactly as you think it's going to be. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, you've got some very expensive hotels. There's like a strip of hotels right along the coast. There's some really expensive ones and some less expensive ones. But look, at the service was fabulous. The meals were good. The drinks were reasonably priced. The island that I went across to was
the Isla de Mujeres, the island of the women.
Yeah, and we took a ferry across there. It only takes a half an hour, and the
You'd
beach.
certainly recommend that.
Oh yeah, and that's where I think that's where they launch to do the scuba diving and the snorkeling, and that was just pristine. That was really good.
What was that called again?
It's the island of the women, or the Isla de Mujeres.
Okay.
And there's ferries that leave sort of from Cancun regularly through the day.
Yeah. And the hotel where we were staying, they had like a tour desk, and we just booked it through there. The ferry that we went on was pretty much brand new, very well organised and run.
And on the island, you said there's lots of cafes and restaurants and shops, so there's everything.
It's really there for the tourists. But yeah, look, it was fabulous. And then you've got downtown Cancun, which is where all the nightclubs and bars are.
It's not really, we didn't really spend much time there.
We're just too old. And I used to run nightclubs, so for up till my 40s, so I was used to it. But probably not our cup of tea, that part of it. But Cancun for a holiday, perfect.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to just relaxing in the sand and the water and all of that. We're not big club people either. And I'm actually not much of a shopper, so I don't naturally gravitate to, I don't have to go and check out all the shops and things like that. I mean, I like to see a little bit of the culture and get a souvenir or two, but I'm really all about experiencing that beach. And somebody in the group is planning a trip to Tulum. And we want to go. We want to experience as much as we can. However, it's an entire day and you're going to see the cenotes. I had to look up how to pronounce that. And do some snorkeling, get some of the Mayan culture. And I think all that would be great. I don't know if I want to spend a whole day there, given that we only have maybe 3.5 days total.
Yeah, that's interesting because we didn't get to Tulum, but we did go to a cenote, and that, like in the top 3 is definitely in Mexico for us, and I think it'd be a shame not to see that. Like, they're just, amazing, the big, where the meteors hit the ground, millions and millions of years ago, and you can actually swim. We went swimming in the cenote, which was incredible. And, the Mayan history is, we saw a lot of it, but, once again, it'd be a shame not to see something of it. And I do hear that Tulum is really beautiful, so...
We went to Chichen Itza.
Yeah, Chichen Itza.
Which is...
one of the 7 wonders of the world.
Yeah. So the cenote was basically around the corner from there. So, look, but I love history, and it's pretty impressive.
Well, we love history as well. I had never heard about a cenote before. All of these things I feel like I should know about since I'm all about the beach. But tell me what a cenote is.
Well, when we were going to Mexico, we started watching a few shows and obviously listening to podcasts, and the cenote came up time and time again. And like you, I didn't know what a cenote was, and I've only just learnt, and it was one of the things I was hoping to go and see. So. It's basically, the cenotes are a join up and under river system, but they were formed, as I said, by a meteor shower hitting the Yucatan Peninsula, and there's quite a few of them, and they're all in a straight line apparently, if you look at them from above. And this one, the one we went to, is Ixquil cenote, near Chichen Itza. It would be, and I'm not good at feet, I'm sorry, but it would be 30 to 40 metres below the ground level. So there's this great big hole at the top, and there's barriers that keeping people out. And there's all the plants are growing down over the edge. So there's all this greenery growing down towards the water. And you walk down a staircase, quite a few stairs, and get to the bottom, and you've got to wear a life vest, and you can float around in this beautiful, clear, fresh water. Yeah, the one we went to is actually where Red Bull hold a diving competition. I actually YouTubed it and watched them do it. That was pretty impressive. But so you're floating down. You feel like you're underground, but and as I said, like the surface is 20, 30 metres above you, and all you can see is the beautiful greenery coming down, and just the sound of the water, and it was magical, wasn't it? Yeah. It was definitely a highlight for us.
I think you've got me sold on the trip to Tulum. That would definitely be worth a day's trip, I think. Speaking of trips being worth taking, what has been your least favorite experience traveling? Because I'm sure that you've probably come across a couple of things that maybe weren't quite to your liking. I don't know, maybe not.
We've been very lucky. We haven't had too many experiences, have we? I think. Oh, what were you going to say? I have to watch what you're going to say.
Look, to be honest, we've been to the Maldives, and I just think it's a little bit overrated. We went to see one of our favourite Australian rock bands. It was a 5 was it 5 or 7 days? 7 days. And you fly into
Mali,
and then you
take a
boat ride out to the islands. And the boat ride was about, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half. And you get there at midnight.
Yeah,
so great. You get on a boat at midnight and you go.
But the days we were there were like, it's one of the most memorable trips because we got to see Jimmy Barnes, is this guy's name, in intimate sort of settings, and we met some friends that we're actually going to Italy to spend time with them, soon.
In about 6 weeks.
Yeah, so...
But just the food was pretty average.
Yeah.
The wine, the drinks
obviously.
were quite expensive.
The thing is, I think the thing about the Maldives is the media you see all the overwater bungalows and it just looks beautiful. But the Maldives is a collection of islands, and each island has its own resort. And once you're on that sort of small island, and they're not big, you know, you can walk around them in sort of 20 minutes. Once you're there, there's nothing else to do. You know, if you're a surfer, fine. You can go snorkeling. You can do that a couple of days. And we did surf lessons. But that's it. And, you know, like I said, if we didn't have the concerts to go to and the friends that we met, and people love that sort of holiday, don't get me wrong, sitting by the, you know, on the beach and by the pool, but it's so far from Australia. It took us longer to get to the Maldives than it does to get to Europe, just because of how, you know, like the layovers and how you get there. It's right at the bottom of India. So, and the other thing that I think I touched on before was we did a tour, and we've realised that tours aren't really for us, or those tours that try and cram everything in. I don't know that we'd feel comfortable travelling around Mexico on our own. For, you know, we don't know the area at all, and B, we drive on the other side of the road, so that would just be so scary trying to work that out. But, you know, sometimes you get to a city, you know, like Merida, the capital of the Yucatan Peninsula, at, you know, 7:30 at night, and you're leaving at 7 o'clock the next morning, and you're just so tired you don't really go out and explore. And that was so hard, because I just wanted to wander and the streets and have a look at everything and you know, get a vibe of the city. That's what we like to do, and we couldn't do that. And most other people on the trip loved it, and that's what they do year after year. That's how they like to travel. But it's not for us, that's for sure.
Yeah, I know. I get the sense that you really do like to plan your own adventure and do the things that will immerse you in the culture and the history which is really what I like to think about when I travel, is to find those special places that are surprising. And that takes spending some time, either just kind of researching and listening, like you said, to other podcasters and stuff, and just staying there for a number of days. Like I would think 14 days would be, you know, probably the minimum amount you'd want to take for a trip as large as Mexico. And
yeah, well, we're off to Italy this coming up in May, and we're having 8 weeks just in Italy, you know. And our friends and people are saying, you know, why wouldn't you go to Slovenia, and why wouldn't you go to Croatia? It's all so close, and all that's true. But we just want to spend a week in each place, or at least 3 nights is our minimum. And what do? Like, we get up in the morning and we walk out the door, and what do we say?
Left or right?
Which way we're going to go today, you know? And off we go and explore. And there's no pressure to hit the high spots and the tourist spots, you know, in a certain amount of time. You get to experience the city. We generally up early, because that, you know, Europeans tend to sleep in, so you get to experience places when there's not many people there, and that's our way of traveling and exploring, and it makes for making podcasts as you travel a lot easier as well.
Yeah, we tried to do a podcast in Mexico on the road. Oh my God!
Yeah, it was difficult.
It was so hard, and I think partially because we were so tired and trying to get a quiet space to do it. So at least with when we say we're in Spain, for instance, if we're staying in a place, say like Salamanca, for 7 days, towards the end of that 7 days, we'll just allocate a day to
morning, really, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it takes about an hour to do a podcast.
I have a podcast guest from a while back, Elise Saunders, and she and her husband travel all over, and they like to, like you, spend time and immerse themselves in wherever they are, get to know the locals and that sort of thing, and really, really get a sense of where they are. And right now they are in Greece for a year and they've planned to go to all these different places. And I told her that when she gets on the beach, they have several beaches in mind that they're going to be staying. I said, let's record a podcast from the beach in Greece. I think that would be fabulous. So
we have thought about doing a 12 months overseas, but there's a few reasons we don't. There's 8 reasons actually, and they're my grandchildren.
Good reason.
And the other reason is we live in a place where people come to holiday, and we adore where we live, and we want to experience the summers here. So.
And often when we come back, we realise how lucky we are to be where we live.
Yeah, that's true. And there's no place like home, right?
So, Australia's a pretty cool place.
Something that I was reading about, I guess you have a podcast, 2 episodes about Tasmania.
We are doing the Lap of Tasmania, it's called, and we're breaking it into episodes. So we've published some, we've recorded some. So
Tasmania is a wilderness state. It's over 42% of it is protected in one way or another, and it is absolutely stunning.
Pristine, isn't it?
Stunning.
I can't wait to listen to those episodes because you all have the most amazing wildlife, and you are in a very unique situation.
Well, I'll give you and your listeners a bit of a heads up on, because my favourite animal's called a wombat, and they're just they're about 20 or 30 kilos, so we need to work out pounds, don't we? But they're solid little lumps on short legs, and they just wander around the hillsides, and they dig tunnels, and they live underground, and they eat grass. And the thing that's really fascinating about them is they do square cube poos. Little cubes. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and they stack them around their
the tunnels.
The tunnels.
Burrows.
The burrows. So other wombats think, oh, there's a stack of cube poo. That must belong to someone else. I'll go away. And so they don't roll down the hill. So if they're stacked like little squares, they don't roll. Amazing.
Yeah, Leanne finds that very fascinating.
I do.
But there's all sorts of there's platypus, there's
echidnas,
koalas, snakes,
all the stuff. Yeah, stop.
But anyway,
Stop that.
And another fact is that the Tasmanian devils per mass have got the strongest jaws in mammals' jaws in the world. The biggest, saltwater crocodiles. They have the strongest jaws of anything.
Yeah. We've done a whole podcast on crocodiles as well. So, but anyway, so that's a story for another day.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. A lot of people that I talk to say, I want to visit Australia. That's on my beach bucket list. What would you suggest?
Well, that's the tough one. I've just been down to have a weekend with my daughter in New South Wales, and I think it has some of the most beautiful beaches. But look, you can't go past Sydney and the harbour and the beaches in Sydney. It's a great place to start. There's many waterways around Sydney. There's the northern beaches, and of course there's Bondi Beach that everyone knows. But basically anywhere within an hour of Sydney and south or north is fabulous. But all the way up the coastline from Sydney all the way up to Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast where we are, they're the most beautiful beaches I think anywhere in the world, and you just can't go past that.
Yeah, Noosa, you've got Noosa,
and up to Noosa,
which is up about an hour from us.
Yeah,
and it's just magnificent. Yeah. I mean, absolutely beautiful.
There's a national
it's in a
park.
bay. It's in a Laguna Bay, and it's protected. Yeah, and that's where they do one of the triathlons.
They do in Noosa. But there's that national park walk, which you've got all the little secret little beaches around there at Noosa. Yeah. So anywhere between Sydney and Noosa, which is a huge area, you won't go wrong. The beaches are beautiful.
And of course, you can't go past the Great Barrier Reef.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking I need to plan out a fair amount of time and just travel up the coast and just stop at different places.
Any further south too, you're never quite sure of the weather. Summers should be good, but you can guarantee, from Sydney all the way up here, most of the year it's going to be nice weather as well.
Well, but then there's certain times, like right up north, there's cyclones, so depending on the time of the year as well. So,
but I said Noosa, you wouldn't go past Noosa.
Yeah, you wouldn't. True. But I mean, there's beautiful beaches in Perth as well, Western Australia. Beautiful beaches.
Well, and we've got friends that live in Tasmania and they go swimming. I don't think we'd ever get in the water in Tasmania because we don't like cold water. But if you want to see stunning waterways and beaches, Tasmania's just got it all, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. So you're planning a trip to Italy, and of course you're probably going to go back to Spain. Where else are you thinking about going? What's kind of on your radar that people might not be thinking about?
Funny you should say that. We were only talking about that last night.
We're thinking Turkey. We'd like to go to Turkey. That's on the radar, and back to Spain and Japan. I try not to have a list because, what if you don't get them crossed off? Will you be disappointed? And we do make it up as we go a little bit. Now that we do the podcast, I'm like, well, we can't really go back to that place. We've already done a podcast about that.
Yeah, but the Turkey bit, I didn't realise that Turkey, exactly where it was until last night. We got the old atlas out last night, and Turkey's sort of right in the middle. Like it's sort of, you've got Asia, and then you've got Africa down the bottom, because Leanne's been to Egypt, and she's always said that, I should go to Egypt, and then obviously then you've got Athens right next, or Greece right next to that. So, yeah, Turkey. And I'd love to go back to France.
And I think there's one thing really left on my bucket list, like not places, but things I want to do. I want to do a hot air balloon ride. And, I might try and do one in Italy. Over Tuscany would be nice.
We've already had a look. They do them. And
maybe in New Zealand. I don't know. So
or Turkey.
Yeah. Well, Turkey's well known for its hot air ballooning, isn't it?
Yeah, and then one day we're going to run out of money.
Oh well. We'll worry about that when it happens.
Yeah, well, but when you just get to the stage where you think, well, you're not here forever. Anything could happen.
I love investing in experiences because I think that is what stays with us, and that's what we're here to do. And that's when you get that urge to travel, it's because you want an experience, because that's what makes living this life memorable.
Well, it's interesting. I was reading a book called Die with Zero, and it's basically the guy saying the same, like don't wait till you die to leave all your money, to children. Spend it now and make experiences, and I guess, like being able to talk to the grandkids about our trip to New Zealand, and we did 4 weeks in Spain with one of my sons and his then fiance, and we still talk about that, so you're right, it's building memories. You're investing in those, aren't you?
Yeah, what was that book you read, 4,000 Weeks?
Yeah, we basically all have 4,000 weeks, right? Like if you live to 80, it's not a lot. So you don't, so you've got to make the most of those weeks.
So I'm curious, how did you meet? Did you meet on a beach?
Oh, we didn't meet on the beach, but our first date was at a cafe on the beach, wasn't it?
Sure. Yes, it was.
Yeah. And we've been together ever since. We hit it off straight away. And
yeah, we met at 9:00 for coffee in the morning, and the cafe we were at asked us to leave about 3:30 because they were closing. And then we went across the road to the surf club,
which is on the beach. And I think I left about 5:30 that afternoon. And and we've been together ever since. And Leanne actually told me that she wanted to go to Spain. That was one of her goals at that particular coffee date. And I said, well, I guess I'm going to Spain. But interestingly, where we met was where I lived and where Lyle used to come down and do his run or walk on the beach. And so we worked out we'd probably walked past each other numerous times on that beach as well. So
I reckon I would have noticed.
Divine timing. Well, it was lovely meeting you. I'm so glad that you reached out to me. I love the podcast. I can't wait to dive into some of those episodes and experience what you experienced. I really appreciate that you take that time to podcast about it. What's the best way to follow you, on the podcast or on your website?
Our website is www.beachtravelwine.com, all one word. And that's where you can find podcasts and the show notes and all the pictures that go with that. Of course, if you have your own podcast listening app, just Beach Travel Wine, and Beach Travel Wine on Instagram, Facebook as well. But if you're interested in that Great Barrier Reef sleep we're talking about, that's episode 36 of the podcast. I'm sure there's people who like to go and have a look at the pictures of us scuba diving there as well. So and just send us a message. We'd love to hear from people. That'd be great.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks again. I hope you have a wonderful day. It is early for you. It is evening for me. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye, Paige.
This was my first podcast conversation with someone from Australia, and I was so happy that it was Lyle and Leanne. I love hearing how they are enjoying their best life and creating unique experiences, especially when it involves the beach. And when I listened to their stories, I could hear the beach, reminding me that even though I might not ever get to sleep under the stars on the Great Barrier Reef, tour the thousands of beaches in Australia, or travel to another country for an entire year, I can create adventures right here where I am that are equally, if not more, memorable. What was the most memorable beach adventure you've ever had? Would you like to talk about it on the podcast? Send a message or a brief story to paige@thebeachspeaks.com, and as an incentive, if you include your mailing address, I'll send you a podcast sticker and one of my favorite beach sunrise photos that you can save or send to another beach lover. The beach is speaking. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Beach Speaks. If you liked what you heard, share the podcast with another beach lover. And speaking of sharing, I want to know how the beach is speaking to you. To record a message, just go to my website, thebeachspeaks.com, click the voicemail button, it's super easy, and I'll play it on the show. And if more beach is what you crave, visit thebeachspeaks.com or follow The Beach Speaks on Facebook and Instagram, where I post all my gorgeous sunrise photos and videos. It's another way for you to reconnect with the beach, return to your soul, and reimagine your life. The beach is speaking. Are you listening?